All right, welcome back, everyone. So 2 days ago in the mail, I received my O3 FFL. This is a Type 3 federal firearms license designated as Collector of Curio and Relics, which is a pretty common type of firearms license that most collectors of military surplus get at some point along the collecting path. I wouldn't call this an addiction, but it's pretty damn near close. So I think there are about 9 or 10 different federal firearms licenses one can get. A Type 1, for example, is a firearms dealer, right? Like a gun shop owner, or a gun shop owner would be an example of a Type 1 FFL. A Type 6 FFL allows you to manufacture ammunition for commercial purposes, and there are a boatload of others, like ones that allow you to create destructive devices. You can go to the ATF website and check out all the different ones that are available to you. So what is a Curio and Relics license, and what are the benefits of getting an O3 FFL? The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms considers a Curio and Relic firearm to be three things. Firearms manufactured at least 50 years prior to the current date, so today would be May 5th, 2021, the time of me recording this, but not including replicas thereof. Firearms certified by a curator of a municipal, state, or federal museum which exhibits firearms to be curious and relics of museum interest, and firearms which derive a substantial part of their monetary value from the fact that they are novel, rare, bizarre, or from the fact their association with some historical figure, period, or event. To give you an example, this Carcano model 1891/24 isn't really rare or bizarre, right? So it doesn't meet that standard of a Curio and Relic firearm. However, it is more than 50 years old, which makes it a Curio and Relic firearm. It's not rare by any means. It's actually very common and not that expensive. But because it's 50 years old at the current date, then it is a Curio. It would be considered a Curio and Relic firearm. Okay, so what does this license actually allow me to do? The big thing is that it allows me to purchase CNR, Curio and Relic firearms, without having to go through an FFL transfer or have to fill out a Form 4473 from a vendor. When you purchase a firearm from a Type 1 FFL, which I'm sure most of you watching have done that, a gun shop or a commercial vendor, the vendor is required to run a background check on the firearms you've purchased as part of the transaction. Well, if you're purchasing a firearm that is a Curio and Relic, in most cases a gun that's older than 50 years old, you no longer have to do that. You no longer have to go through that background check process. And then in this instance, at least for a lot of people who hold a Curio and Relic firearms license, it saves a lot of time. You don't have to wait around for 30 minutes for your background check to clear. I'm sure most of you have, sat at a gun shop for 30 minutes to maybe even an hour waiting for your background check to clear, which is not really that uncommon. It's kind of weird that we do live in the 21st century where, the internet is incredibly fast, yet it can sometimes take up to sometimes 3 hours for a background check to clear. The other big thing is that when I go to purchase firearms from online vendors, I can have firearms shipped directly to my house instead of having to send it to an FFL first to conduct that transfer. Normally, I would have to have it shipped to a local FFL. They would have to conduct a background check, and this CNR license completely eliminates that as long as it's a Curio and Relic firearm. So if you're on Gunbroker, you see a gun you want, you purchase it, and you're like, okay, what do I do from here? If you're not a license holder, that gun has to then be shipped to a local FFL. And in most cases, it's going to be your local gun shop or local pawn shop that's licensed, that's a Type 1 licensee that can conduct a background check or transfer. Having a CNR license completely eliminates that, and you can just have that shipped straight to your house. As long as that firearm qualifies as a CNR. This saves, I think, a lot of us money in the long run when a gun shop normally charges can charge between $25, sometimes $100 for a transfer, and that adds up all over time. If I pay for the gun online and have it shipped right to my house instead of having to pay transfer fees and don't have to spend time waiting for a background check to clear, it's a lot more convenient. It makes collecting easier and more hassle free. This is really what the license is about: is allow license holders to enjoy the hobby that they're trying to partake in. So if a gun costs $250, for example, a Carcano, most Carcanos right now are retailing between $200 and $250. If I bought this without a 03 FFL, I'm probably going to be paying between, depending on what my local FFL charges for transfers, between $25 and $100. That's almost half the value of the gun itself. On top of that, you're going to have to pay shipping, which is $20 to $40. You're going to have to pay state and local taxes. And this just kind of completely cuts out the middleman. So, you are saving money in that sense. Especially if you're collecting a lot of firearms, you're probably saving maybe $300 to $400 a year. Again, depending on what your local FFL is charging for transfers. It's kind of a sore subject for a lot of people, but gun shops probably hate doing these transfers and they don't like doing them. So increasing the price is something that a lot of them do, especially when they have no local competition. They'll still try to make money off of those transfers. At the end of the day, they want to make money off of selling their products. They want to make money off of selling their merchandise, their accessories, and their services, whether that's repair services or, again, the service of conducting transfers. So this completely eliminates that, and for a CNR license holder, is a godsend. So the third thing is, and I'll mention, is that at least here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, private sales of firearms are no longer allowed as of July 2020 with recent gun legislation. So this eliminates that concern for people with Curio and Relic licenses, again, when you're dealing with CNR firearms. If I'm at a gun show, which background checks are now required in my state, a normal non-license holder would have to do a form or fill out a form 4473. At shows, this can be pretty time-consuming or demanding, since a lot of small vendors that rely on state police to run those transfers, there's gonna be a huge backup in the system. And if I'm a CNR license holder, all I have to do if I'm buying a CNR license is provide a copy of my license, record the purchase on a bill of sale, record that in my CNR log, and then be on my way. If I have a friend who lives on the other side of the state and we want to trade, he's a CNR license holder, I'm a CNR license holder, and he has something in his collection that I want, he can sell that to me and I can purchase that as part of improving my collection, right? And instead of him having to send that gun to a local gun shop of mine to conduct that transfer, he can just go ahead and send that straight to me, again, as long as you log that purchase. Now, you do have to keep a physical log of all firearms purchased with your CNR license at the location that you're keeping your firearms that you've purchased with that license. You can buy a book to do that or keep it logged in a bound binder or something like that. Now, you must track all guns that have left your collection too. When I got my 03 license, they didn't actually send me a book, which isn't a big deal. I don't think I was really expecting that, which would have been nice, but you can use any bound log to track the information, who you got it from, the name of the serial number on the rifle, the actual amount that you purchased it for or sold it for, and then of course the date. And this log can be inspected by the ATF if they give you a notice. So keeping those records pretty accurate and pretty clean is what you're aiming for. You don't have to purchase all your CNR rifles with this license. If I guess in theory, you could just buy one regularly from a gun shop and fill out a form 4473 if you want to do that. Now that you have that license, you are not required to use that if you don't want to. You can go through a normal transfer process. I don't know why someone might want to do that, but maybe there's a reason out there for that. So if I don't have my CNR license on me, I go to a gun shop, I see a gun that I like. For whatever reason, I can just fill out a 4473. I do not have to use my CNR license, even if it's a CNR gun, CNR Curio and Relic rifle. Also, this license explicitly states that it is for the purpose of collecting and the hobby of collecting Curio and Relic firearms. So you're not supposed to buy a ton of firearms with it if your intentions are to make money or for commercial gain. If you do intend to purchase firearms as a business, you would need a different license. You would need a Type 1 FFL, which is a whole nother bag of worms. But regardless, the key thing is to remember that this CNR license is for building your collection, trading, exchanging with other hobbyists and other collectors, and overall improving your collection. Just going over the application kind of relatively quickly, you'll want to fill out pages on the actual, if you go to the ATF website and actually get the 03 or the general license. Now, on the ATF website, you'll have the entire FFL. And this one document that you're going to fill out, this PDF, this is for all FFLs. And so what you'll see on page 1 is it'll ask, what type of FFL are you applying for? And then there's, 3 down, you'll see FFL 03, type 03. So this one document or this one application is a universal one for all 3 of them. Of course, you're only going to be checking the one that you're actually applying for, but in theory, you could check the other ones. But the nice thing with the Curio and Relic license is that you can skip a whole lot of the business section on page 2. For the Chief Law Enforcement Officer section on page 2, you'll just find the business address of your CLO in your town and mail them a copy of this form at the same time that you submit the regular application to the ATF. You can easily find out who this is by looking up your local police department website and then have it mailed to the police department to the attention of so-and-so, whoever that chief law enforcement officer is. From there, you don't have to do anything else. They just, this just requires that your local law enforcement officer, chief law enforcement officer, know that you're applying for the business or for applying for the license. They don't have to sign anything. It's just kind of a notice for them. You also don't need to include a picture of yourself or provide fingerprints for a Type 03 license. Again, this entire license this entire application could be for any license, so it's going to have a lot of different questions on it, and not all of them are going to pertain to the 03 Curio and Relic license. And then it's a super easy application to navigate. It's going to have a lot of terms that are listed on the back of it that you can easily go through. It's going to have a lot of explanations of what you need to do. There'll be many parts where it says, if you're applying for an 03 license, you do not need to do this. So sit down, read through it a couple times before you actually fill it out. It'll make a ton of sense. You have to remember that you are not running a business. This is a license for those who want to collect Curio and Relic firearms, so you don't need to answer questions about business owning. This is going to be for your personal address. It's not a business address. You'll also, again, like I said, you'll fill out, the application has 2 parts, right? It's got the original part and then the copy. This copy on the second part, which scratches out all the payment information stuff, this is going to go to your chief law enforcement officer, and the original, of course, is going to be sent to the ATF with your payment. For this whole process takes, at least for me, 6 weeks. Within a week of me actually mailing the application, they charged my credit card, and we were all set. Paid about $30. and they sent me this one pager with everything that was on my FFL. It's just quite literally folded 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, had my license number on it. I had to sign it and date it, of course, um, to officialize it. And then, of course, it was signed by a representative from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And honestly, it was very quick. I was expecting this whole process to take maybe up to a year, but was pleasantly surprised when they charged my credit card within like a week, and then got it back like 5 weeks later. So this kind of about wraps it up with this, '03 Curio and Relics license. I'm really looking forward to actually using this. Collecting Curio and Relics is a pretty rewarding hobby, and getting this license is honestly cheaper and easier than a night out at your local bar. So if you are someone who is getting into Curio and Relic firearms and you want to actually get more serious, and you know that, hey, my local gun shop is going to be charging $50 for a transfer, and you definitely don't want to pay that every time you buy a $200 Carcano online, then this application's honestly for you. That's going to save you probably, like in my case, probably $200 a year. I don't have to deal with my local gun shop. They'll ship the gun straight to your door. You catalog it, and you're pretty much all good to go. Again, and it's also super, super convenient if you live in a state that doesn't allow for private transfers of firearms, especially with CNRs. It's going to be super helpful at gun shows. And again, even if you are at a gun shop and you're buying a CNR firearm, you still don't have to wait around and do the whole form 4473, sit around for half an hour for your background check to clear. So this kind of begs the question, guys, what should my first CNR purchase be with my new license? It's up to you guys. Leave in the comment section, but I'll leave you with that, and I'll talk to you guys later.